Kat Calvert. I am a Workstream Lead Officer in the West Partnership. EOC Education Scotland's badging all across this. It is because it's Education Scotland official training, it's their official training, and it's endorsed by them. So it's their materials that I'm using. I'm hoping that means that sounded like a lobby there. No, we're okay. Can I just ask everybody to mute, please, and just to let you know that we are recording the session. Okay, so you're all here for Young Leaders of Learning. Let me just take you through it, and I'm going to do this really quickly to try and get you through it in an hour and give you the most pertinent points. If I can move the slide forward. So the resources and training that you will find helpful to help you through this programme are the Young Leaders of Learning programme, which you also have the digital handbook for. You have learner participation guidance and professional learning. That's available on the West Partnership YouTube. There's our pre-recorded session with Maxine Jolly, and then you have the professional resources for How Good Is Our School, parts 1 and 2, and you also have Recognising and Realising Children's Rights professional learning resource, and they are available on Education Scotland's website. You will have access to these notes when you join the team. Everything is there, every single slide, every single note that's written to go with the slides is all there for you. Everything is very, very transparent. So the Young Leaders of Learning programme, the purpose of it, why are you here? What's this going to do for you? So it ensures children and young people are actively involved in the ongoing self-evaluation activities which lead to improvement. So they take part in reciprocal visits to other schools. In those visits, they identify what's working well and any areas for improvement. Those things are agreed. Don't worry, they're not coming in and looking at absolutely everything. You have agreed areas for them to look at, and you will have agreed that prior to the visit with your own Young Leaders of Learning, and they will have the same for when they go on their visit. Usually you're partnered with a school, but you can be put in trios depending on numbers of schools participating in local authorities and who would be appropriately grouped together. It also promotes the ways that children and young people can be involved in the school improvement activities in their own school. So you have what they do in their own school, and then you also have their voice impacting on another school. We can take this further, and the feedback that they give can be collated into themes, which would involve, which is collated by the local authority lead. That can then feed into local authority planning, and then even further than that, we can take the themes from local authority leads and look at how that feeds into West Partnership planning. And again, taking it even further, we have a national leads group who meet, where it's leads from across the country in each local authority, and we can take that, collate that feedback and look at how it impacts on the national training programme for staff. So the principles. Participating is voluntary at local authority, establishment and individual staff member level. So although we are delivering this as the Regional Improvement Collaborative, nobody has to be involved in it. Not every local authority is involved in it. And each local authority may have different rollout periods as well. We just offer training at particular parts of the year. The local authority leads can also provide training at a time that they feel appropriate for their local authority. Same for establishments and for individual staff members. Establishments do not have to do this. Authorities can ask you or suggest it. It may work with your improvement plan, but you do not have to do this. You're here because you've chosen to be part of it. Development of the programme should be agreed by all stakeholders. So it's co-design, it's collaborative. You have to take as many voices as you can. Somebody said to me today, aren't the questions designed by the young people? And I said, well, actually, if you take it a step further back, because it links to school improvement planning, which should involve all stakeholders, it actually involves, it's every stakeholder that's linked to the school. All Young Leaders of Learning have to undergo the training approved by Education Scotland, which is this training for school leads, and then there's a further training for young people, which I'll check my diary at the end, but it's I think it's the 31st of May and the 7th of June or thereabouts. Both mornings, but 9:30 till 12 o'clock. They come online, they deliver, they do tasks. This is a really important one. There should be no direct observation of teachers. There used to be a Young Inspectors programme, which I'll touch on briefly. It is no longer about the children and young people observing teachers and giving them feedback on their teaching and learning. Children and young people should take lead roles in taking forward identified actions from the visits with the support of school staff. So they're given roles throughout the visits, and then looking at the action plan after the visit, the senior leadership team and the team of young leaders of learning should identify areas that they can take on leadership. So why get involved? Well, it supports the school's own self-evaluation activities. Children and young people are able to share practice and become more familiar with the language, so they can talk confidently should you get any visitors. They can talk confidently about what the processes that are involved in school improvement planning, and they will be knowledgeable about their own school improvement plan and where the school is going. Some schools even have the children write it in child-friendly language, which is then also distributed to parents, and parents have found that very helpful. It provides an excellent opportunity to build leadership skills in young people, and that's been noted in all of the schools where it's taken part. Would have taken part in it. Their opportunity to confidently talk to other staff members, to other children and young people and partners in the school improves greatly. Early feedback, backing that up, shows the impact in learner participation across the school has been significant. Head teachers take a more strategic approach because, I mean, there's an accountability there when you're talking to young people, and they look at the wider learner population taking forward outcomes as well. So it will stretch out to, and you may have committees across your the school that might tie into particular outcomes. And we're all working towards UNCRC. At the moment, it's not law, however, very likely to come into Scottish law. And I know that all local authorities are tied into the Rights Respecting Schools programme. So the relevant articles are Article 12 and 13. I'm not going to read them out for you. I'm sure you're familiar with them, and they're right there for you to read. So how it works, you're paired with a school or put in a trio. It will depend on maybe what you're looking at or how your local authority wants to do that. I don't pair you up with schools, it's your local authority lead, and I will show you where to find that at the end of the session. I'll also collate an email with all of these people on it. It's usually best that you are not paired with a school that you know well. So for example, if you're in a cluster group, or if your authority operates any sort of family grouping of schools, it's better that you're not with them unless you're working on a particular outcome. So for example, a school working on transitions, it might make absolute sense to have a Young Leaders of Learning programme working within that cluster where all schools or a pilot of schools take part along with the associated secondary. On the visit, the schools work together to create a positive atmosphere for the children. Some local authorities, this is now our second rollout of this, our first cohort. Some of them met online. They would meet with their partnered leaders. They would meet with the children would meet maybe online before they meet in person. They might discuss ideas, share ideas of what they want to do. And then they come to the actual visit. On the actual visit, they have clear areas where they're looking for the children, but where they've asked the visiting school to look at. They'll look at that in teams, and then the feedback involves looking at what they think's worked well in that area and areas that they might they feel the school could improve on. And at the end of it, they devise a short action plan. This is nothing fancy. It is not a template of tables and wonderful things and very complicated boxes and linked to articles. It's just a piece of paper. It can be as simple as what worked well, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. Here's where we think you can improve, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. It does not need to be anything fancy. And there are examples of this in the handbook as well. Schools might choose to use How Good Is Our School to train a number of young people. So taking the original training that I'll deliver over the next month, and they can take it further using the How Good Is Our School documents as well. What's really helpful is to look at the cycle of improvement as well, and look at how the young leaders can move that forward. So you're not just looking at that feedback to the other school, you're really examining your own school improvements cycle and look at where they can give you feedback on that. In terms of the training, it has been developed in partnership with Sparks, who are the Student Partnerships in Quality Scotland. It's an organisation that promotes student engagement in the quality of learning and teaching in Scotland's universities, colleges and schools. Sparks work closely with the Lead Officer in Education Scotland to develop and deliver training across the young leadership, the young leaders of learning cohorts. It can be done face-to-face, online. Like I said, it can be done by the local authority or myself as the RIC lead for it. The training itself covers things like representing the views of others, respecting privacy, safeguarding, and how to give feedback. And there's a huge section in feedback and how to give helpful feedback, how to anonymise information that they might be given from a focus group. So one of the examples that has been used is the primary 4 children in the focus group across the school for maths have said that they don't find maths very exciting and engaging, and they think it could be made better. So the young leaders would not go back to the head teacher and say, the primary 4 maths teacher is rubbish, and we think that they need to improve their work. They would be saying some pupils in the school noted that maths could be a bit more exciting. So it's very much anonymised so that single teachers do not stand out. Nobody can be identified by it. Looking at the visit, how might it be structured? So children and young people look to they can share their views on what it would look like, and this is a programme and it's a plan. However, you know your setting best, you know your school numbers best, you know the areas that you want to look at, you know what will work best for that. So what's recommended is a team of 4 to 8, so no bigger than 8, unless maybe you're a particularly big school, but you do have to think about what works well for transporting, because you do have to get them to another school. 4, maybe if you're in a smaller primary school, that might be more appropriate. What we would recommend is that they're your P6 pupils, excuse me. So if you're training, pupils just now, you might be training your current P5 so that they're P6 next year. Same for secondary, you would be looking at maybe current S1s or current S2s. From the point of view of secondary, you probably find that a lot of pupil leadership roles go to upper secondary, and those are also young people who are sitting there, maybe their diet of exams, they have a lot more pressure on them, and they tend to be the young people that are selected for things. So it's important to have a wide variety of ages, or you could split it across the secondary and maybe have 2 groups. In terms of the primary, one of the reasons that we say go for younger pupils is you want them to see the impact of their work. So if you go for like current P6s going into P7, they're going to be working on this next year, and then they leave you, and they can't see the impact of their work. And also, it doesn't give you much future planning, because they would be able to support the training of your next pupils, and you would be able to deliver that by that point. So coupled with your school leadership and the other pupils, then you could train your next cohort of pupils. Agreed activities take place. They can look at a theme from How Good Is Our School, which we'll go into later on, and the school and local authority will identify that theme. Agreed activities take place, and then the young leaders of learning from both schools will feed back to the senior leadership team at the end of the visit. Activities might be things that you want the young people to work on in it might be activities where they've got focus groups. I'm going to come on to that kind of thing next. Or it might be activities if you're looking at a particular physical area. So you might want to do different activities within that area to let them explore how that will work. The feedback that they give at the end of the visit focuses on, like I said, what's going well within that theme, and what the next steps are. And as I said before, a simple bulleted action plan is drawn up, nothing fancy. And likewise, when children give feedback, it's not, if you've asked them to look at health and well-being, then they're not they shouldn't be giving feedback on other areas. It should be targeted at the area that has been agreed. What might young leaders of learning do? Pupils have identified a range of activities and questions relating to the 5 themes. Again, go into them in a wee minute. So once they've decided what they're going to be looking at, and they decide it along with the school leads, you're very much the guide, you support them, you make sure that they keep on track and that everything that they do is relevant to what the school is working on. So that's all agreed, and areas that they might activities that they might do are meeting focus groups of children and young people, may go outside and break at lunch to see how their playground runs, to see what it looks like, if that's appropriate. They might use the canteen for lunch. They might meet with school groups such as, the buddies, peer mediators, or it might be the sports champions, whoever you feel that they should meet with. They can look at pupil work as long as it has been anonymised. And they'll look at displays throughout the school. They can join in any extracurricular clubs and activities if you are running them, to let them see how that runs, if that's what you feel is appropriate. And again, you would discuss that, because obviously there are transport issues and perhaps impacts on parents as well with childcare for that. They can join. They'll might meet with support staff, janitors, dinner, catering staff, anyone in the school that's appropriate for them to meet with, and again for any external providers that you may have visiting the school or partners that are in. And then you might want to provide them with any relevant leaflets or letters, and have a look at the school website or social media, and that might be something that they want to do that. They might want to do that before they come, but it might also be something that you're looking to tackle on the day. Some comments there from staff and pupils. You can all see, they're really positive, that stretched pupils in lots of different ways, and it's had an impact on how the school works, and the impact that it has on the empowerment of staff, pupils and parents as well. So I emailed you out the digital handbook. You don't need to print that out. You can if you want to, but you don't need to. Everything is digitally on the team, and I will show you that at the end of the session. Key points are, as we said before, voluntary nature at every level. The programme needs to be inclusive. Now, this is important. Don't just pick your great speakers, your super confident children. Think about having a range of pupils. Think about how you can, the impact that this empowerment agenda is going to have on them. Obviously, don't set pupils up to fail. However, have a think about how you can be inclusive. We had a school last year, a partnership where it was an ASN school and a mainstream school, and it worked brilliantly. And initially we thought, we'll need to find another ASN school when we thought that they had signed up. However, there was absolutely no need for that, and it did both schools with pupils a lot of good to see how the other one runs. There's a Glow page which I've sent you the link to. If you're not able to join, I think someone has emailed me to say that they've had difficulties joining. We'll come to that at the end and I'll sort you out with that. You can collaborate in that page. There's a chat pane obviously where you can just dump a question, someone will answer it, or all of the materials are there. Maxine Jolly from Education Scotland, who runs this programme, is a great sharer, is what I would call her. And she shares without any concern about, you'll see her notes, there might be things that need updated. The one thing that we would ask is, if you are using a document, please download it before you alter it, or else if you alter it for Main Street Primary, then everybody gets that version. So just be really careful of that. And professional associations should be aware of involvement. So that's your union reps. You might want to let them know that you're taking part in this, and your local authority lead knows that they are taking part in that they're involving either their LNCT or GNCT as well. So supporting a visit, agree questions. It can be done during your training. It can be done after your training. We're recommending a health and wellbeing theme because we know that most people will have that on their improvement plan. That might not be what suits you. You do what suits you. It does work best if paired schools use the same questions. So you won't know your paired school by the training because they can't pair you until we know which schools have been fully trained. So some people perhaps at this point might say to me, listen, this maybe isn't for us this year. We're going to pull out of it. So there's no point pairing you up with a school prior to this. So you can't agree that with schools, but you can agree the questions at any point. Keep the chair of the school focused. They don't need to see the jotter cupboards. Consider whether they need to see the toilets. Maybe they do. Maybe that's an area for improvement. But just think about what is the appropriate things for the visitors to see, because you don't want their whole day to be focused on a tour of the school. Agree specific roles for young leaders of learning. So who is the note taker? Who's the photographer? Maybe who's the key question asker, whatever. That makes sure that they know exactly what they're doing. Can I just suggest that if you have a photographer, that you use a school device and not personal devices, just because they'll be taking photos in another school, and there could potentially be children in the background as well. An adult needs to be present during the focus groups. Yeah, actually have an adult present at everything. Have somebody there to guide them. I'm sure that you would anyway. I think that's a kind of given. They will need support, especially in the feedback sessions. Don't just let them say, I thought that their wall displays on rights were good. What made them good? Tell us a bit more detail. Think about your wall displays. Is there anything that you would take from ours and bring here? What could you make better? You'll need to probe and ask questions. During the visit, it works really well if they're joined together. So if you have, your visit, don't have all the pupils from X primary and all the people, working together, and all the pupils from Y primary working together. Mix them up. Have them maybe working in small groups of 4, so that you get 2 from each school. Opportunities to work together. And in terms of, there's guidance in the handbook. They can work in the small groups and come up with their priorities of what's working as well. And it means that the conversation will flow as well. On this page, there are film clips. I am not going to show you them. It is just films of actual school visits. So you'll see, you can see what's been done. It just gives you some wee ideas. You can pick up some ideas from that. Again, this presentation is sitting in the team, so it's all sitting there. Learner participation. Okay, so the next few slides are going to take us through some of the materials that support effective learner participation. There is a self-evaluation document in the National Improvement Hub, and the guidance is there. That guidance gives a definition of learner participation, what it actually is, the principles, benefits and rationale, and then the 4 arenas. There's some video case studies as well, and support materials that will help with implementation. There's training, and that is available on the Wellbeing for Learning YouTube channel. If you just search Wellbeing for Learning West Partnership YouTube channel, it's there, along with another one that I'm going to mention later on. If you've not done it, it's quite a handy one to do. It's usually a nice one. It clears up a lot of myths about learner participation, and gives you clear guidance. So it looks at how it's a key aspect of rights-based practice, which I'm sure you're all working on, especially if you're here for this. It will show you some of the key documents that will help support you, and they'll look at what we mean and examples of it, and helping you to embed it in your practice and then to evaluate it. So the 4 arenas of learner participation are learning, teaching and assessment, opportunity for personal achievement, decision-making groups and the wider community. So learning, teaching, assessment, the more formal curricular areas seen in classrooms, playrooms, sports areas, libraries or outdoor settings, anywhere where your curriculum takes place. Things would influence decisions about maybe the approach taken, the content timetabling, the sequence, the structure, and school improvement activities can shape how children and young people influence this area. The opportunities for personal achievement, they can be classed maybe what we would call wider achievement as well. Might include volunteering, award schemes, visits, sports events, thinking about how you encompass all of that in your practice and provide opportunities for children and young people, maybe public performances, enterprise. And They can be shaped and designed and initiated by young people, and might be part of a collaboration with staff in schools or other organisations. You might, as joint schools, decide that you're going to work to put pupils through high five awards, maybe, or dynamic youth awards, anything that you think is appropriate, and they can influence school culture, especially through the participation. Decision-making groups, traditionally the pupil council, but then you might have a wide range of it. I know my own school, I didn't mention that I was a primary head teacher for 7 years before I did this job, and we had a wide variety of councils so that every child had an opportunity to take a lead in one area. So you might have eco councils, playground councils, sports groups, could be your parent-teacher council. Maybe a community sports hub that your school sits on, and they have an impact obviously on budgeting, staffing, rules and policies. And then your wider community, well, maybe that's where your sports hub would sit. Looking at a range of partnerships, maybe businesses, parents, community groups, other local authority services, something in your local community, or work at a wider level. You might be getting involved in something like the Bubbles Not Balloons or the Plastic Straws campaign, one of these big national campaigns, and there's some things like that running through the Waste Partnership as well. So lots of opportunities to be involved in intergenerational dialogue as well through that type of work. So in order for participation to be effective, it should include equal opportunities for a wide range of pupils to be involved, like I said, and not just those who are articulate and confident in speaking out. Although that is a good start, children should have the right not to participate as well, or share their views if they don't want to. So don't pick the good ones who maybe say, I don't really want to do this. Think about who you're choosing or who you're taking part in. We'll show you how we recommend that you do that as well. We need to respect that children and young people are citizens of their own rights who have something to contribute to discussions, and these contributions are useful and valid. They often make a unique contribution, and since they're the main stakeholders in schools, it's really important that we listen to their views. It very well may make the experience more relevant and valuable to them. You'll all have examples of that where maybe a child or a young person has given you their view and it's made you see something from a very different slant. And I've been there myself, where children have approached me and I've thought, right, you know what, you're right and I'm wrong that I haven't done that. So let's see how we can fix it. Where there's intergenerational power sharing, the traditional look at it is that the adults run the school. However, the views that the children express are often shared with adults, in some cases shaped by adults. So it's no bad thing if adults can support and scaffold the children and young people. However, we don't feel that adults' views are more valuable or that children shouldn't be given a chance to share their thoughts. But it is important that there's transparency and accountability, because we need to tell the children that although their views will be listened to, we're not always in a position to take them forward. It could be budgeting, could be resources, or it may not be in their best interest to take that particular view forward. There's a picture of a toilet there because it's often one of the things that pupil councils discuss. It can be seen as tokenistic, but often children feel that it's important to them. You've got hygiene, safety, gender issues, they all come into play with toilets. So maybe very, very relevant to them, but shouldn't be the only issue that they're allowed to give their opinion on. So do try and move away from that as well. Okay. Next one. So how good is our school? You've got part 1 there. Part 1 of the document relates to creating the right culture and ethos for supporting learner participation in school improvement. It's a guide for staff and partners working with children and young people to support self-evaluation of current approaches to learner participation, and it explains why children and young people should be actively involved in self-evaluation and school improvement, and the importance of achieving the right culture and conditions for this to be successful. It contains features of highly effective practice and some challenge questions to support professional dialogue among staff and partners. The aim of part 1 is to support schools to evaluate the ethos and culture of the school against what is currently considered good practice in learners' participation in children's rights, and it links closely with the learner participation guidance as well. Looking at part two is where learners become actively involved in school improvement processes. It's well structured and has been well tried out in primary and secondary settings and can be adapted for ASN settings by breaking down some of the questions. Oh, excuse me. So there's 5 themes: our relationships, our learning and teaching, our school and community, our health and well-being, and our successes and achievements. There's 3 aspects for each theme. There's the features of highly effective practice, suggested evidence gathering activities, and discussion questions. So these themes were identified as being important because they were areas that children wanted to explore, and it was children and young people who identified this. So for an example of relationship feature of highly effective practice in the document is our school is welcoming and everyone feels they belong here. All pupils have opportunities to make friends and feel part of a group. And an example of learning and teaching feature of highly effective practice is that children and young people are developing skills and attitudes that support them to take responsibility for their own learning. So documents broken down into these 5 themes. Then we've got recognising and realising children's rights. So there's a learning resource which is linked in this slideshow. I'm really sorry, I just can't jump back and forth and put all the links up as well, but you've got it in the notes here. It was refreshed in August 21 and training's been delivered across Scotland. It is called Children's Rights, What, Why, How? And that is also available on the West Partnership Wellbeing for Learning YouTube channel. So those sessions of that has been recorded along with participation. It's a good one to begin with for UNCRC. There is another one that you can do with Education Scotland called, I think it's What's Next? Children's Rights, What's Next? Something like that. They're great programmes. They're very good to give you the absolute basics and let you know all about a rights-based approach. So, what's next? The full incorporation of UNCRC. That's certainly what we're expecting the Scottish Government to, that's certainly where we're expecting the Scottish Government to take us. There'll be an empowered system for learners. We are looking at how effective learner participation supports UNCRC, expected to become law. You know, looks at what effective participation is, and there's further resources. So there's, like I said, there is a link in this to the thematic inspection and a link to the empowered system on the National Improvement Hub. You can see that the recommendations from the thematic inspection were to actively promote pupil engagement in decision making and school improvement, and to make sure that the staff and wider community know what effective engagement looks like, and provide professional learning opportunities, because, you know, we're still hearing with rights come responsibilities, which it doesn't. Rights are inalienable. You can't take them away. They just have them. So, but it's also understanding of the wider world, where even coming to school in the morning is linked to the right to education for Article 28, but not everybody gets the rights to that opportunity. So this is the last slide, and like I said, this is a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but I am trying to do it in an hour so that your time is best used. The local authority leads will pair or group schools. They keep a record of the visits taking place. However, you have to inform them of when your visits are taking place. You need to keep them informed. It's good if you can share your key themes with your local authority groups, because they then come to the national group and they let us know what's happening in each local authority. It's a really good opportunity to share good practice as well across, to share good practice nationally. Before I come to questions, I'm going to bring up the team. It had open and it's now no longer open, so I'm going to share my document here. So if I go into general, so you can see there somebody, hopefully on the call, message today to say that they didn't seem to have the link for today, and Glow email addresses can sometimes do that. They can bounce back if it's a large group, and I'm not quite sure why. So I was able to send that to her. You can see there's been some other posts saying, look, we're just doing this. Some people will reply, some people won't. Someone might email you privately with ideas. You know the drill. However, when we move on to files, so this is the bit where you'll be really interested, and this is where all of your support materials are. Broken up into 3 areas, but if you go into support materials, this here, presentation for staff, this is the presentation that I have delivered to you. I've changed the name on my downloaded version, so I was very well behaved and I didn't ruin Maxine's documents. Now, can you see the notes? So let me get to one of the later slides. There you go. So the links are here, and then, yeah, you can see everything that I've said is there. And there are some that give links to, there we go. So there's like, it's got the link there to the National Improvement Hub as well. So you don't need to go searching for things. It's all sitting there. What's in here? There's a digital handbook, programme handbook for ASN establishments. Okay. Then apologies if I'm looking this way, it's just it's on this screen, this is where I can see it. And if we go into back into general, so you then have the workbook, which your pupils will need for the training there. And this is also the programme, the PowerPoint for their training, and it all has notes added to it. And then if we go into learning and teaching, so again, there's workbooks for each, and it gives it, they're very, very similar. They're not hugely different. And whole section for relationships as well, along with the PowerPoint for training. It is all sitting there. Now, if I open this up and I open the digital handbook up, how am I doing for time? Got 15 minutes, we're okay. So everything's there. It breaks it all down. If I go to reciprocal visits, it tells you there. So it just gives you a very brief overview. Now, here's something that's interesting. It will give you a sample timetable with some activities, some bits and pieces, right? So maybe 10 o'clock they come along, tour of the school, got half an hour they go to break, then focus group, staff focus group, they break it down to let you see examples of what a day might look like. Then guidance for visiting schools, guidance for hosts and visiting schools for secondary and for primary. So there's types of roles that they might take, how you might support them. Moving down further, there's a sample timetable for secondary. Now, when you're choosing your young people, you do not have to use this, so please do not sit there and say, oh, she said that's there, I must use this. You can simplify this, because I know that you don't have a lot of time between now and delivering. Please don't just pick your pupil council. Please don't. Please really think about it. Think about the children that this could really have a huge impact on. So you might want to think about the skills required. You might want to break that down a wee bit, you might not, and then they can write in their evidence. It can be one sentence, it is not the typical teaching job application. You might not want all of these things to be there. You might choose 3 key ones and have them fill out some examples for 3. because you don't want this to be an onerous task. You don't want it to be, it shouldn't take you hours to read, and it shouldn't take them hours to complete. You might want to complete it at home and bring into you. You might want to use your pupil council maybe to select anonymised, people that are good, people that might be good for the role, and use them for that. Then there's an example secondary one as well. It's all there, but again, you don't need to use it all. Now, you have question grids, so you don't need to think up all of the questions. There's some examples there for you, and you can link that to what might work for your school. So you've got questions on relationships. You've got questions on learning and teaching. You've got questions on schools and community. Can we have it down like this? And what was that one? Health and wellbeing. Yep, health and wellbeing there. Lots of examples. So when you have questions, have a flick through the book, because you might find that they're answered in there. Question grid. We had a session where lots of schools had questions of how on earth do we collate what they say? I mean, how do we write it down? What's the template we have to use? Actually, so there's a clue worksheet that helps them looking for it. There we go. There's a simplified way for feedback. Might use that for primary school. Things I really like, things you could change. You could do that at an individual level, and then they could come back and share it. So there's an example of primary school feedback. It is a piece of paper, 2 headings, bullet points under each heading. Nothing fancy. Secondary, they're just looking for a bit more detail at secondary. Key strengths, select suggested areas for improvement. This prints out better when you download it. Sometimes it jumps about this way. Okay, so this is an example. They're usually all over the place, but it doesn't work when you show it in this format. And basically what this is things we like and things you could change. And these clouds, I don't want to move them because it'll come up differently when you download it. But you'll have some under the things that we liked and things that you could improve. And that's it. I'm going to show you. Should just come up. There we go. So this is the YouTube channel, and there is videos. What, why, how, learner participations to go up. Get that up for you. And then the last thing that I want to show you is, but take you into, in fact, I'll take you to the home page so that I can show you navigating it from there. So this is the West Partnership website. If you go into work streams, wellbeing for learning. Scroll to the very bottom. Top seems to be going very slowly. Go to the very bottom, young leaders of learning, contacts, and your local authority contact will be there. So there's a place, if you lose the email, it's there on the website. Okay. Thank you all very much for listening very, very patiently. And I think there's been something in the chat that I've possibly missed.